Hello everyone, this is Zen. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I put together a special video for you guys talking about tokenization, why I'm so bullish on sologenic and tokenization in general. I've been saying NFTs, is so much bigger than we could even imagine. So just quickly imagine how much money is actually in the world, how much value is in the world right now, today. Here's an article I have up on the screen. So how much money, how much value is out there? Now think even further, how much of that money, how much of this value needs to be tokenized? It's a lot. It's a lot. So enjoy these next few clips. Hope you guys enjoy. Everybody have an awesome day. Peace.
Interesting. All right, we're going to play a word association game. I'm going to say acronyms and that people are banding around today. I want to hear what your thoughts are. NFT.
Underhyped. Underhyped.
Okay, I like that. Can we expand on that?
Sure. I mean, look, we're clearly in that pre-Cambrian hype cycle, and there's definitely a lot of hype right now. I think people underestimate how NFTs will impact lots. I mean, right now, people like to talk about them in the kind of art, music. I think that the tokenization, I mean, NFT is just a tokenization of lots of assets. I think that the tokenization of lots of assets, we aren't even, it's not that we're not in the first inning. We're like, in Little League on the T-ball, and I think NFTs are definitely here to stay and will have a bigger and bigger impact in lots of different parts of the financial system.
So kind of like omarees law here.
If you compare the stock market size with the crypto asset market size, they're not even comparable. If we are talking about mass adoption of crypto markets, I think it's important to merge these two traditional financial markets and crypto assets together. And that's exactly how the idea of sologenic was born. Oh, I forgot that, but that's fine. So let's find out what sologenic is. Sologenic is an ecosystem built on top of XRP ledger, merging traditional financial markets with crypto assets. This ecosystem tokenizes over 30,000 stocks and ETFs on demand. I repeat, over 30,000 stocks and ETFs from top 25 global stock exchanges like NASDAQ, NYSE, and etc. So there are four main components within this ecosystem. First, tokenize. Users, they're going to be able to tokenize any stocks, ETFs, or fiat. The system would simply generate stablecoins backed one-to-one with the asset. Number two, trade. These tokenized assets are tradable on existing CoinField centralized exchange and DEX, which is a decentralized exchange. Number three, spend. So users, they are able to put these tokenized assets as a collateral on their solo crypto card, which I'm going to be explaining further, and spend it anywhere in the world in real time. And finally, solo coins. So solo coins are designed for market making and liquidity providing. Solo is a utility token. It's not a stable coin. So we do have solo coins, which is utility, and we have tokenized assets, which is stable coins. These are not the same. There is also a 50% bear commitment. Any transaction fee generated on decentralized exchange is going to 50% of all the transactions generated on decentralized exchange is going to be burned instantly. The remaining 50% of transaction fees will be divided between all the solo holders through staking rewards program.
I'm digging into is looking at the tokenization of real-world assets. The idea there, generally being, there are a lot of assets that people purchase and own that are actually quite illiquid. They're quite hard to transfer. And by tokenizing these things, you can actually make them much more liquid and much easier to transfer around. And an asset that's easier to transfer and has more liquidity is better than one that isn't. And so you can imagine that over time, kind of all of the assets that we own actually end up being tokenized in many ways. And we're even seeing similar sort of things inside of really consumer-oriented things like gaming, where a lot of people spend a lot of money buying virtual goods inside of games that they love. But those goods are actually locked up in that game, and it's really hard to actually transfer a good that you own inside of a game. And so by tokenizing these virtual goods and building a platform where they can be exchanged inside of a marketplace, you can actually remove that level of trust that's needed and really ease the transfer. And it starts to shift things like games from being based around kind of free to play and selling virtual goods to almost like a marketplace driven or a market driven economy.
Which is really all digital assets is accomplishing. The societal benefits and the governance benefits of digital assets is something that we've never seen before, and it's incredibly powerful because of those incentives that Raul's talking about. And if you look at, let's take the societal aspect for a second. And I talk about this all the time, so those who have heard me, apologize for being repetitive. But if you look at some of the biggest companies and success stories in the world, where the equity holders benefited at the expense of the customers, right? Whether it's McDonald's, right? McDonald's shareholders are almost never the same as the McDonald's customers. Whether it's the newcomers like Airbnb or DoorDash, where regular people made those companies work, but only a handful of VCs made all the money on the stock. Or even something like Amazon, right? Where you could be an Amazon Prime member, which is basically being a network member, without necessarily being an Amazon shareholder, which is the ones who benefit from the growth of that. Well, what tokens are doing is they're combining that. They're saying there is no such thing now as customer versus shareholder. You're all the same people. You're in the network and you're part of it. You're going to own tokens and you're going to benefit from the financial upside as well as from the network benefits. And when you think about what that does from a societal impact, it's probably the most positive development we've ever seen from wealth equality, right? You no longer have to be an elite to make money, right? Everyone always talks about you have to have money to make money. Well, that's not true anymore. Here, go be the first, gamer on a new game and earn some tokens. Go be the first user of a DeFi application and farm for some tokens. You now don't have to come in with money to make money. You can be an active participant and be rewarded for what you're doing. And now let's go back 15 years ago when Facebook was started. It's very famous. It's a very famous story now that Facebook figured out growth hacking before anyone else. They realized through data that if you could get an early user of Facebook to like 10 posts and to follow 10 people within the first week, that they were going to be very sticky customers. So Facebook did everything they could to trick people into doing those actions. Well, digital assets is doing the same thing, only instead of tricking you, they're paying you for those actions. They're saying, if you do the things we want you to do, we're going to give you a piece of our upside. That is incredibly, incredibly powerful. It puts all of the growth back into the hands of the people who make the growth possible. So when you focus on that societal benefit, not to mention the governance, which we didn't even talk about, the ability to actually have a voice, digital assets is the most powerful instrument we've ever seen in terms of capital formation, network effect, evangelism, and equality. And once these companies figure that out, again, it's not going back, right? It's just a matter of how fast we can get a regulatory framework to allow for this. And then to back to 15 minutes ago, the question about like the current crop of tokens versus what's coming, some of the current crop of tokens are still going to be amazing and powerful, but others are going to be a blip relative to Disney token or, Delta token or, a California token or Duke token, right? I mean, like this is where we're headed. And I think it's this industry is going to be, we talk about, 5-10 trillion. I mean, this could be hundreds of trillions when you talk about all the different, wealth effects that are going to come from this.
Hey, you guys.
So what advice do you have for kids that are coming up now?
Well, I'm going to change the question a little bit. What advice I have for anybody who's thinking about what's next? A very good friend of mine named Chad, I'm trying to convert into being a crypto guy. I brought him here. So don't scare him away. He's back there in the back. But, here's a guy, as an example, who has spent, most of his career in traditional finance, almost 20 years at Waddell & Reed, and managed billions of dollars in terms of assets under management. And, frankly, this morning, having breakfast, what I said is like, look, the traditional finance that he has lived in is a contracting it's not that assets under management are going away, it's that the fees, the margin profile, and maybe actually the way it's been managed is contracting. And so you can either push that boulder up the hill or you can get behind a boulder going down the hill. And that is called this industry that, when probably you and I got involved might have been $20 billion and now is over $2 trillion. And I would argue on the way to 20 trillion, and that's a massive amount of value creation. And so the advice I give people, not just my friend Chad, is look, get into an industry that's going to change the world over the next 10 or 20 years. When I got involved in the internet, as we think of the internet today, it was in 1995, and I felt like that's a good bet about where I'm going to spend the next 20 years. shifting to crypto was a strategic bet about I mean, it has exceeded my expectations, I will say that. But it was a bet about where the world's going. The only other one I'll